Hello everyone. Welcome to another brand new episode of ESL Talk. Getting deep into season 6 now, just a few episodes left before we wrap up for Christmas and for the new year in 2023. And in this week's episode, we're going to be talking about how we can boost learners' speaking and listening skills. We're joined by our guest Cami, who's an English coach from Argentina. She works predominantly with Spanish-speaking English learners of lower and intermediate levels. So she's going to share her strategies and insights on how to boost learners' speaking and listening skills. She's also going to talk about her expertise for social media as well, and how to really motivate and engage those learners. So we'll get into that in just a few moments. But before we do, let me tell you about something huge going on with our sponsor, Crystal Clear ESL, which is at esl-curriculum.com. They're currently running their Black Friday promotion until the 23rd of November, where you can get 37% off an annual core curriculum membership. So that is 37% off for an entire year. And if you do sign up before the 23rd of November, you can also get a bonus of an annual customizable games membership worth $45 as well. So a lot of extra value there. Just go over to esl-curriculum.com, sign up for that amazing Black Friday offer, 37% off an annual curriculum membership. Enjoy all those materials, great lessons, great content for all different levels for a really amazing discounted price, and also save yourself a lot of time planning and preparation too with your students. So that's esl-curriculum.com. Sign up for that Black Friday offer, 37% off an annual core curriculum membership. And finally, don't forget to give us a follow on social media on Instagram. If you haven't followed us yet, just go to @ESL Talk Podcast, where you can find out more about each episode, find out a little bit more about our guests, connect with them, ask us questions, and just really get access to everything that we're doing on the podcast. And then, of course, don't forget to go to the website if you'd like to be a guest, esl-talk.com, where you can just click the button at the top of the page, be a guest, fill in a few short details about yourself, and then you could be appearing on a future episode like our guest Cami is today. So let's get into today's interview, where we're going to talk about boosting speaking and listening skills in our students. Here we go. Hello, everyone. I am here with Cami. Hi, Cami. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me. I'm so happy and thankful for you, and I love to be here. Honestly, so happy.
I'm glad
How
to hear
are you
that. Yeah, I'm doing good. It's been a long time coming. I know we talked about a year ago about this, so it's great that we finally found time to do it. And today we're talking about how we can boost learners' speaking and listening skills. Before we get into that, Cami, tell me a little bit about you. What's your journey? What do you do in the world of teaching?
Thank you. Yes, of course. I started teaching 5 years ago, I would say. I started one-to-one classes, private classes, and I loved it. I discovered I loved it. I had a stage of my life where I kind of said, I'm not a teacher. I'm not going to be a teacher. My mom is a teacher, but it's different, and she's not a teacher. So I had like the feeling of I should be something different than my parents, But she told me, like, since I was like 3 years old, I put all my teddy bears like on the floor and taught them. So it's in my blood. So yeah, I realized I'm a teacher and I love it and I enjoy it so much. I started teaching in private lessons in person, and then the pandemic came. And I panicked a bit because it was like, what am I going to do now? And actually, it was really positive for me. It was the fact that changing the environment and started teaching online because of two factors, I would say. First, I could teach more to more students, because if I teach maybe one day just to 2 students because of the commuting, going and coming. But now that I teach online, I can teach like 6 maybe students per day, because I like from 4 to 10, like it's more, and also it's more comfortable because
of course it is. Yes.
Yeah, we're from home, and some students also get a bit nervous when they meet you. Online is different. I love it. It changed my life.
I agree. I agree. Much more comfortable. You can teach in your pajamas. I mean, not exactly, but comfortable clothing. You
Kind
know,
of,
if you want to
yes.
take a break or get a snack, you can do that. It's much more
Exactly.
friendly for the teacher. And I think not all students, but most students probably prefer that flexibility as well. So it's a nice balance, and that's a great story. Thank you for sharing. Because again, I know you also spend a lot of time posting really great content for learners on social media
Oh,
as well.
thank you.
So yeah, that's another really great thing that you do to help boost learner speaking and listening skills. So, can you break down for us, Cami, how do you teach speaking and listening skills to your students? What's your approach? What's your method?
Of course. Well, actually, I changed my method depending on the students. My main aim is to ask their aim. So, what's your objective in English? Would you like to improve it, to learn it, to pass an exam, to have
Hmm.
certain level for work, for university, anything? And then I start practicing with them. And I think asking questions, it's really important because
Yes,
you get to know how the person is, because we're all
of course.
different. You
Yes.
know, I'm an extrovert. I consider myself an extrovert, but there are many people who are introverts, and that's great too. And we shouldn't like create so many questions for them if you're not ready to share
Yes.
yet. So maybe like talking about more general things. For example, if we live in the same city or the city they live, or about a hobby like a series. It's mainly one of my favorite questions. And first, do you watch any series, any films? What kind of
Hmm.
music do you like? So like get like to hook them
Yeah, you're
with that.
building connection through shared interests and shared passions, which is a really great way to start building trust and building a comfortable environment and a safe environment for your learners, which we know is very important. How does your approach differ with maybe beginners or lower level learners? How would you approach them, Cami?
Yeah, that's the most difficult for me. If you ask me, like beginners are a challenge, but I just think how I would love to start. So maybe ask them basic questions. So, what's your favorite color? And then we convert. What's your favorite food? Oh, they say maybe bocadillo. Bocadillo in Spanish is a sandwich, but not exactly because in Spanish we have sandwich too, which is
Hmm.
something different. So
Hmm.
now the questions begin to raise,
Yes.
and how do I say lechuga, which is lettuce? How do I say bubble, turkey? And that's the way, like as you said, like I try to make them be encouraged in speaking, motivated, like
Yes.
enjoying, and seeing the
Yes.
need that it's important to tell your favorite food if you have allergy to anything, and then conversation just starts. But I mainly
Absolutely.
focus on useful things.
Hmm.
Um, Food, ask for directions, describe the name, number, email, ID, things that are vital. I had
Yes.
once a student that she struggled on an airplane. She got a panic attack
Oh
on a
wow.
plane and she didn't know how to react. So yeah, finally she managed, but she started taking classes with me because she said, "Cami, I couldn't communicate and I was struggling a lot." So just helping for the useful things. Then we go more advanced, but just
Right.
what you
Right.
need.
Awesome. That's a really nice approach. And it's about relevance, making it relevant so that it's going to help them in their daily life. Maybe if I'm
Exactly.
an English learner, I don't need to know about business idioms or business collocations because I'm not a
Totally.
business person. I mean, if I am, then great. But if I'm not, maybe I'm going on a trip. I'm going to the UK. I'm going to go to London. People have different accents. Things have different words and vocabulary. So I need to know things that are going to help me in my journey with what I'm doing. And I like that approach of identifying, connecting, scaffolding, and then just building up from there. That's a really good way to boost those skills. Now,
Thank
you
you.
do work a lot with Spanish speakers, I noticed. So
Yeah, all
with
of them.
Spanish, yes, exactly. So all of them. Thank you. That's even easier then. So with Spanish speakers, we have obviously Spanish in Spain. We have Mexican
And
Spanish,
Argentinian
Argentinian
people.
Spanish.
Yes.
all these different kinds of Spanish, accents, dialects, the vocabulary. How do you like tailor your English tuition for those different kinds of Spanish? Because they're not the same, just like English.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. I think that's totally true. It happens with English. I love also to teach like different accents. It's not the same saying, for instance, thongs in Australia as in other countries like
That's a good
England
one.
or America, you know. And how do I do that? Well, I would say half of my students are from Argentina, and I'm from Argentina, so no problem with that. And the other half are from Spain, and I've been living here for the past 5 years, so no problem with that also. But I learn every day because sometimes they say, Cami, how do I say certain thing, right? And maybe there's not an exact translation, but an expression, or how do you say it also? Because it happened to me not long ago. A lot of my students in Spanish, we're very direct, you know? We say like, me encanta esto, me encanta. Like, I completely love it. And in British English, it's not quite like that. You say, I quite like it. I rather enjoy it. And sometimes I feel they're a little bit direct. And when they have to write reports, proposals, or essays, or things like criticizing certain things of society. For instance, the other day, one student wanted to communicate that there are multiple times where employees are taken for granted, we can say, by employers. And he said like something like really strong in English, like I don't remember exactly, but like employees are mistreated by employers and they don't, or they get paid shit, let's say. And I was like, my darling, that's really interesting. It's true. Why not? But we should like look for the way of saying it without being so direct. So we can say that,
Yes.
for instance,
Mhm.
employees suffer a series of treatments, or that the salary is not quite enough for
Yes.
the lives, and sometimes employers take them for granted, and
To
some
have a
things
little
that,
bit
yeah,
more tact and be a bit more discreet, I think is important.
totally,
But I
yes,
do understand
indeed.
because, as someone who is British myself, I might think something is great, but I won't say, "Oh, it's amazing." I say, "It's all right." But
Totally.
there's the real difference there, and it's great that you're teaching those slight nuances between different cultures as well. It's really important for speaking and listening when you hear it and when you say it. So, um, tell me, Cami, because you've had a lot of experience with this, where should teachers start when they're creating these lessons and these resources? What are some ways that they can start teaching this at the beginning?
At the very beginning, well, I would say like for interests or goals, but just connect it and always be open with mistakes. Mistakes are beautiful. Mistakes help us to learn. Like, and if we don't make mistakes, that's a problem because we're not
Yes,
learning.
yes, exactly.
I mean, you're not learning anything. So when you're a beginner, you make lots of mistakes. And one of the mistakes is that you say you do mistakes. And
Yes,
it's to make mistakes.
exactly. Hmm.
So I would say like, oh, you know what? In English, we don't say do mistakes. We say make mistakes.
Right,
Okay, things
right.
like that. Like not to feel like the word no, for instance, or maybe being a bit aggressive of laughing can traumatize
Hmm.
directly like
Hmm.
students. Like
Hmm.
I have some students that came from different learnings or teachers. They cried in
Wow.
classes,
Okay, that's not
and
good.
they came with me and they're like, Cami, I hate English because my teacher embarrassed me in front of the whole class, or mistreated me, or laughed at me. And you need to empower them. That's my
100%.
thing. So
Yes, yes.
it doesn't matter exactly where you start teaching, like content, but where you do just encourage them, they're doing all right. If they make
Hmm.
mistakes, you correct them, but
Hmm.
from a place of respect. And always, I try to put myself as an example,
Yes.
because you can say, Hey, no worries, that's completely all right. Because it happens with Spanish people, and they will say, "Oh, sorry," like when they make a mistake. "Oh, sorry," and they answer, and it's
Yes.
like, it's all right.
Don't be
I
sorry. Yeah,
made
own
the
it.
same mistake like maybe
Yes.
today, and I have a
Yes.
C2 English level. I've been teaching for 5 years. I have a university degree, and I'm doing a master's degree, and it's all right.
Absolutely. I love that. That's again a great approach. Meet students at their level, find out their experience, find out what works for them, maybe what doesn't work for them, and then you can tailor your approach around that. So another really important issue here is feedback, Cami. So what methods or what ways do you provide feedback for your students, especially on their listening and speaking skills? How would you do that?
When they, for example, commit, they make a mistake, or for instance, pronunciation or grammar, I always try, because I study this, there are two ways, like kind of saying, "Really? Are you sure?" And let them some seconds to think if what they actually said was correct or not. And the other one is like say the correct answer. I 90% of the times try to use the first one. Really? For example, for instance, if they say, I don't know. Did you went to the supermarket? Did you went? You sure? And I
Uh,
can assure you that 95% of times they know
yes.
the correct
Yes.
answer.
Yes.
So I would say that.
Yeah.
In terms of listening, well, it depends on the exercise. For instance, if I give them homework because usually listenings I give them for homework if there is for an exam, a Cambridge exam, for instance, and they have to send me the picture, and we in class see if we can continue or we need to revise some things. And I'm like, okay, let's read the question again. Read the question. Do you understand what it says? Great. They listen one more time and they do it correctly. So it depends sometimes on focus.
Yeah, and motivation of the student as well, because some students that I have, I know I tell them, here's a homework task, and they're like, yes, and I'm like, did you do the homework? They're like, no, I was too busy. Sorry, this came up. So yeah, I guess it comes with knowing your students as well. But this thing you mentioned, Cami, about the act of noticing. If you don't have to say, hey, you made a mistake, you messed up. No, you'd say, are you sure about that? Is that right? And then just that act of noticing will trigger their mind to think, oh wait, no, it isn't. Did you go? Yes, exactly. Did you go? But that's for a
Exactly.
question. So did you go? Yes, I went. Oh, okay. That's how we would say that. And then you provide that error correction and that method.
Totally.
Yes, yes, yes. I love it. Um, so when it comes to these skills, I mean, we've mentioned the different things that we can do. If I want to be really explicit and I want to break down a speaking skill or a listening skill, how would I do that in a lesson? What ways or what steps could I take?
Good. Well, there are many, but for instance, I use every class when I start the class, we start with a Kahoot. And my Kahoot is a listening. So it's like, yeah, gamification, but it's the hardest skill in the case of Spanish speakers. Usually, listening and speaking are the hardest ones. So they have to read some sort of questions, 5 or 6. Some of them are fill in the gap. Some of them are like to choose one option. Some of them are to answer a question. Some of them are true or false. So after reading that, I put a clip of an excerpt, I would say, of a series, film, uh, documentary, TED Talk, or 6 minutes English from the BBC Learning English. I love that. And then we play the Kahoot. So that's the listening I use. And regarding the level, this quite can be quite controversial, but I do one per week and I use it for all my students. The vast majority of my students are C1 level, but I have B2, B1, C1 that are reaching C2. So I really like to see the reaction of the low level students doing something high level, and you will be like shocked to see that they if like sometimes they do it very well. Like I put the clip twice. I don't know if I said that. Always twice, except my students tells me like, "Dan, Cami, let's go to the gajo. Let's go." But if not, I'll put it twice, and they do a great job. And sometimes maybe I explain certain maybe nuance of the situation, and they get it. So I think sometimes we as teachers think that students need to have a level, and actually every skill has a different level. So I always try to put them harder things because with practice, competence also goes up. So if they think like, oh, I did this lesson was C1 and B1, I did a great
Yeah,
job,
they feel great
and
about themselves. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. So yeah,
I
it's
like
it's
that. I
really
love the
interesting.
element of gamification because I've brought this up so many times. Even like with my adult learners who are in their 30s or 40s, I'm like, do you guys want to play a game? They're like, yeah, I guess. Okay. And then they play the game. They're like, this is so much fun, but I don't want to admit it. I'm like, it's okay. We're all children inside. It's
Totally,
fine. Yes. And
totally.
it's
Yeah,
it's a really nice way to build a hook and to engage for that
yeah,
lesson as well, and
yeah.
also to connect
Actually,
the skills.
it's great because I just have two students who are children.
Hmm.
Like the
How
rest
old are
are
they?
teenagers and adults, and I
But you can
try
apply that
to.
to all of them, right? You can do the
Yeah,
game for every student.
exactly. Actually,
Yes.
I try to do a game every lesson. If it's not like a hood is a taboo or stop the bus, or you know what I really like to use, maybe helps other teacher around that. Do you know Jimmy Fallon, the
Yes, of
show?
course. The TV show, the talk show. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So he plays two games that I think they're really good. That one is called Box of Lies, and the other one is called What's Behind Me. So if you take a look, I played with them. I put the video and I closed my eyes, and they had to like describe the thing that if it's the one what's behind me, and then the way around, and they have so much fun with that. And with Box of Lies, they need to like create an entire lie or describe. And I really like
Hmm.
to use realia with that, I would
Amazing. I
say.
think, yeah, realia is something that teachers don't always utilize enough, but it's a really amazing way, especially at the lower levels, to get students engaged, get their energy levels up, and get them speaking and listening without even realizing,
Yes,
because they don't
totally.
worry about the nerves or the anxiety or the pressure. It's not there because it's a
That's
game.
the
So yeah,
thing. Yeah,
yes, wonderful.
yeah.
So, Cami, tell me, how can we make sure students consistently build and develop these skills, speaking and listening, outside of class, in between classes? Is there maybe social media? You mentioned TV shows. Anything else?
That gives food for thought. I love that question because, in my case, in my education with English was crucial. I always say that 70-80% of what I learned, I didn't learn it at school or at university. I learned it through YouTube videos, Instagram, series, films, podcasts, songs, books, comics. So anything that you can do, anything that you can do in English, do it. There are some students that are like, yeah, I love watching series in English, great. And there are some students that are like, I don't have time, I don't like it, I hate it. So what I like to apply with them is to connect with something they like. So, do you like cooking? Okay. Are you going to prepare any desserts this weekend, for instance? Why don't you look for a recipe in English? Have you ever thought about that? Or a student who loves psychology. Okay, there are many podcasts in English about psychology. Or I have a student who loves cars and motorbikes. Hey, there are a lot of influencers on YouTube
Yes.
or Instagram or TikTok now. I don't have TikTok, I don't use it, but it's massive. So just do what you like to do, but in English. We have so many
Yes.
resources. We're really lucky.
Yes, we are blessed. That's great. Yeah, I love that idea. Maybe the next time I make dulce de leche, I'll try to do it in Spanish only. There we go. That'll be my motivation. I think
That's
modeling
so
is good though.
cool.
I think modeling for your students and saying, well, I did this and here's what I learned, and maybe you could try this, like be that model. I think that's really great advice too.
That's really a good idea. I will
Yes,
steal
yes.
it.
No problem. That's fine. It's good. Yeah, it's no problem. Always good to, try new things as a teacher, make mistakes, fail, and learn from that. And it'll make you even more effective in the future, for sure. So, Cami, how can our listeners connect with you, find your content and follow you on social media? Where should they go?
Well, they should look for English with Cami on Instagram, and they will also have access to send me an email, or I also have a webpage. They can send me a DM, answer very fast. But yeah, DM works very well.
Thank you for the chat. I really enjoyed that. And thank you so much for your passion and energy and enthusiasm. It's great to hear. All right, that was Cami. Thank you again, Cami, for taking the time to share your knowledge of speaking and listening skills. I thought it was really interesting to hear your approach and how you do things from the perspective of working with Spanish speakers and being a Spanish speaker yourself. It's also wonderful as well for guests to feel confident enough to come to the podcast and speak fluently in English and embrace their identity, who they are as a speaker. I know a lot of guests say they're a little bit nervous sometimes, or they're a little bit anxious to speak only in English, but as I'm sure all of you can recognize and see, that it's a really wonderful thing to kind of go out of your comfort zone and really get comfortable and get good at doing things like this. And it's a great opportunity as well. So if you would like to be a guest in the future, don't forget to just quickly go to the website esl-talk.com. You can fill in the information on the Be a Guest link, and also you can listen to all our previous episodes for free on the website esl-talk.com. That is it. We are very, very quickly getting towards the end of this season, and we've got a couple more episodes left, so really looking forward to seeing you again for another new episode next week. Thank you so much. Bye for now.